Hello friends, welcome to a new topic today. In this chapter, let us now learn about a new disorder which is congenital complete ureteral duplication. So if you see here, there is two ureters, right? One is the larger ureter, the second is the smaller ureter. This upper pole, the ureter draining the upper pole is large and it is actually draining down and medially, right? And this ureter draining the lower pole is small and it is draining upper part of the bladder, and it is also draining laterally, and this rule is called as Weigert rule. That is, the upper pole ureter draining medially and down and below, a little below than the lower pole ureter, is called as Weigert-Mayer's rule. Okay, now I'll show you the picture. Okay, here if you see, this is voiding cystourethrogram, where you are actually seeing the ureter which is draining into this urinary bladder, right? So this is the ureter. Okay, the downward and lateral rotation of the lower pole secondary to hydronephrotic upper pole, and this leads to drooping lily sign. Here if you see, this is the upper pole where you see the bigger part of the dilated loop. See, this is very dilated, so this is the upper pole, whereas the lower pole, see this one which is very thin, okay, that is the lower pole. So this is reflexing right lower pole of the ureter is this one, and this is the bladder. So this is the lower pole, that is the upper pole. So this is drooping lily sign. Why is this looks like drooping lily sign? Because in the lower pole there is it becomes almost atrophied, whereas upper pole completely it drains most of the part of the kidney. Okay, so here if you see the orifice of left ureter and right ureter, this ectopic ureter is present below the left ureter. I will even show you how it is. Okay, so let us now learn about duplication of renal pelvis. So here first we will see duplication of renal pelvis. This duplication of renal pelvis is most commonly unilateral, and it is most commonly left sided. In this we have small upper pelvis drains the upper group of lymph nodes, upper group of calyces, whereas large lower one, see this small upper one is draining the upper calyces, whereas this large lower one is draining the middle and lower group of calyces. So this is called as duplication of renal pelvis, or here there is only duplication of pelvis and not the ureters. Then we have something called as duplication of ureters. So what is duplication of ureters? In this, if you see the two ureters, see there are two ureters we have. The upper ureter is this one, this is the lower ureter. The upper ureter goes down and it will open medially and distally to the lower ureter. See, this is opening medially and distally to the lower ureter, and this law, we call this law as, there is a name given to it, that is Weigert-Mayer law. And sometimes if you see, the two ureters might also join in the lower 1/3 course and give rise to common ureteric orifice. Sometimes it might give rise to common ureteric orifice. Sometimes this upper ureter may open medially and distally to the lower ureter, which is called as Weigert-Mayer law. Then if you see the clinical features, the main clinical features are, here you see that this is asymptomatic, and here it is most commonly seen as incidental finding on renal imaging. So here we have two ureters, right? Because there are two ureters, there can be increased chances of pelvic-ureteric obstruction, and thus there is increased chances of infection and stone. And sometimes one of the ureter may be dysfunctioning and dysplastic and non-functioning. Sometimes the ureter may be non-functioning and dysplastic. The two ureters, if they open separately, there might have abnormal in the opening, may be abnormal in function and position. Then if you see in children, lower pole ureter this is very important. Lower pole ureter most commonly has increased risk of infection. Increased risk of infection is most commonly associated with lower pole ureter, and if you see, ureterocele is most commonly associated with upper pole ureter. Ureterocele is most commonly associated with upper pole ureter, whereas increased risk of infection is most commonly associated with lower pole ureter in children. And if you see, in males, in females, ectopic ureter may also open into the vagina also. If this opens into a vagina or urethra below the sphincter, in such situations there is dribbling of urine. If it opens into the vagina or urethra below the sphincter, there is dribbling of urine. So how are you going to diagnose it? For diagnosis, you can inject a dye which is called as IV Inda carmine dye, can be used for finding this duplication of ureter, and this dye will give color to the urine. Because it gives color to the urine, so you can see where it is leaking from. In females, if the opening is above the sphincter, obviously it is continent, but if the opening is below the sphincter, then it is mostly incontinent. Then if you see the diagnosis, for the diagnosis you can use IVU. In intravenous urogram, you see two ureters are shown, which is called as drooping lily sign, which I have already shown you. So in this, only if the upper drooping lily sign will be shown only if the upper pole is not functioning. See, if the lower pole is not functioning, you will not see the drooping lily sign. If upper lobe is not functioning, then you see the drooping lily sign. I will show you in the picture, just a minute. Okay, then you can also see cystoscopy. If you do cystoscopy, you will see two ureteric openings in the bladder wall. Okay, then you can do ultrasonography for complication, and DTPA is done for functioning. Then if how is treatment? If what treatment is, if the patient is asymptomatic, no treatment is necessary. If in any case one kidney is severely diseased or atrophic, if one kidney is severely diseased or ectopic, then you should do nephrectomy. If the kidney is diseased or atrophic, then you should do nephrectomy, or else there is nothing to do in this case. Treatment is, you can even do reimplantation also. Okay, then Weger-Meyer's rule, as I have already said, the upper the ureter draining the upper pole opens distally and medially. See, the ureter opening the upper pole opens distally and medially, whereas the ureter from the lower pole opens laterally and proximally. Okay, so this ureter is the reflexing ureter. Okay, if this upper pole ureter is obstructing, because sometimes it is associated with ureterocele. Okay, so if you see, this is obstructing, associated with ureterocele. Then what is the most common site of opening? So if you see, in the males, the most common site of opening is prostatic urethra, and in the females, the most common site of opening is distal part of urethra or vestibule. In the males, the most common site of opening is prostatic urethra. In females, it is most commonly opens at urethra or vestibule. So as a result, in females, if you see, there is increased chances of urinary incontinence, whereas in the males there is increased chances of UTI. In the males, you see increased chances of UTI, whereas in the females there is increased chances of becoming urinary incontinent. Then if you see, in the urine, in the females, if there is history of normal distension and normal, there will be, in the females, first there will be history of normal distension or normal passing of urine. Along with that, there will be dribbling of urine. It's not like she cannot pass the urine properly. No, here the female can actually pass the urine properly, and along with that there will be history of dribbling of urine. So here there is, in these patients, there will be no well developed external sphincter also in females. Because of this ureter, there is no well developed external urethral sphincter. So how is drooping lily sign shown? So that also I would like to explain. See, whenever there is obstruction, as I have said, the upper pole of ureter is obstructing. So whenever there is obstruction to the upper pole of ureter, so this upper pole of ureter is not functioning. So this leads to the atrophy of the upper pole of upper lobe of the kidney. So this leads to the atrophy of upper lobe of kidney. See, whenever the upper lobe of kidney is obstructed, the upper lobe is not functioning properly. So this leads to the atrophy of upper lobe of the kidney. So there is no contrast going into the upper lobe of kidney. So this leads to this sign which is called as drooping water lily sign. So as a result we get this sign which is drooping water lily sign, which you see, because now the contrast is just going into the lower pole and there is no contrast in the upper pole. So the lower pole looks like this drooping lily sign. So that is drooping lily water lily sign. Okay, there is one more thing which is not related to this, which is completely different but which can be asked, which is called as paradoxical incontinence. What is this paradoxical incontinence? It is also called as overflow incontinence. Here the sphincter is normal and there is incontinence is present. It is almost similar to this incontinence which we see in this disease. Okay, so this is about the duplication of ureter. Okay, so this is the, see here you can see two ureters draining, right? So this is the normal ureter, intravenous urogram, and here you can see two ureters which are draining, right? So this is normally in this stage, whenever there are two ureters which are draining into the urinary bladder. See here, this is the normal kidney with normal ureter. See, this is the duplex kidney, that is we have two ureters. Here we have incomplete duplication, where the two ureters drain together in common channel and they drain out. Sometimes there can be one blind ureter also. Sometimes there can be inverted Y ureteral duplication also. Okay, so this is drooping lily sign. If you see, this is drooping lily sign. It occurs because of upper lobe atrophy can cause this drooping lily sign. Okay, even if you see here also, you see the drooping lily sign. Okay, this is the drooping lily sign which you are seeing in one more image, and this is the lily. Okay, so this is about the duplication of ureter. Then we have something called as congenital megaureter. So what do you see in congenital megaureter? It is a bilateral condition which is associated with functional obstruction of lower end of ureter. Okay, because of the functional obstruction of lower end of ureter, this leads to dilatation and followed by infection. So urinary tract infection is common here. Though there is obstruction in the lower end of ureter, the ureteric orifice is normal and ureteric catheter passes normally. So treatment, it undergoes improvement on its own. So these are the pictures of congenital megaureter. Here you see bigger ureter, and even here you can see the bigger ureter which you can see. Okay, next, after congenital megaureter, the next lesion which we have here is post-cabal ureter. Here the ureter passes behind the inferior vena cava. As the ureter passes behind the inferior vena cava, this will lead to obstruction, and this obstruction leads to hydronephrosis. Okay, and we have a sign here which on IVU, which is called as inverse J sign, or we have fish hook ureter, or we have Shepherd hook appearance. We have reverse J sign, fish hook ureter, or Shepherd hook appearance. Here what should we do as treatment? See, it is behind the inferior vena cava, so we cannot cut the inferior vena cava, right, because it's a vessel. So we have to divide the ureter itself and then rejoin it in front of inferior vena cava. So that is ureterostomy should be done. You should cut the ureter behind and you should rejoin it in front. Okay, if the retrocaval ureter becomes fibrotic, you should excise it. If there is hydronephrosis, then there is an operation for hydronephrosis, that is Anderson-Hines operation can be done for hydronephrosis. Why is this post-caval ureter occurs? What is the etiology? Etiology is there is persistence of right post suprarenal vein, because supracardinal vein, because of the persistence of right supracardinal vein, this post-caval ureter can occur. So the main investigation of choice in this situation is MRI. I'll show you the pictures also. Okay, so these are the pictures of retrocaval ureter. See, this is the kidney, this is the ureter. The ureter is behind the inferior vena cava. Okay, so this is retrocaval ureter. In the retrocaval ureter, as I have said, there is J sign or Shepherd hook sign, right? Or reverse J sign is seen. So this is the reverse. See, this is the J, reverse J, or you have Shepherd hook sign, which you can see here. This is the intraoperative picture where you can see this is the ureter, and this ureter is going behind the inferior vena cava. Okay, yes. The next thing, so the next important thing is bifid ureter. I have already shown you that in the what do we say, in the picture I have shown you about the bifid ureter, right, in the before. So in the bifid ureter there is something called as yo-yo reflex can occur. So what is yo-yo reflex? In yo-yo reflex, the urine from one ureter has actually this urine should go like this, right? It goes like that, like this. Along with that, this might reflex back to the other ureter. This reflex is called as yo-yo reflex. This is seen in bifid ureter. So then we will see the vascular anomalies of ureter also. So what are the common vascular anomalies of ureter? In the vascular anomalies of ureter, arterial anomalies are most commonly seen than venous anomalies. In the vascular anomalies, arterial anomalies are most commonly seen than venous anomalies. Even in the vascular anomalies, left vascular anomalies are most commonly seen than the right vascular anomalies. So most common aortic anomaly is supernumerary renal vein is the most common arterial anomaly, whereas most common venular anomaly is circumaortal aortic vein. Circumaortic renal vein. The most common venous anomaly is circumaortic renal vein. So if you see fish hook ureter, I have already told you, retrocaval ureter or post-caval ureter, which I have shown you, right, just before. Now if you see, these are the pictures, these two are the pictures of supernumerary renal arteries. Supernumerary renal arteries. See, this is the main renal artery, these are the accessory renal artery, which you can see. Even here, right renal artery, and these are the other accessory renal arteries which you are seeing. This is the aorta, abdominal aorta. Okay, then if you see, these are the pictures of circumaortic renal vein. So here one more renal vein arises, okay, and it goes behind the aorta and it drains into the inferior vena cava. Even see, we have two renal veins. Even here you see, this is the aorta, right? So sorry, this is the aorta, this is the inferior vena cava. So this, you have two renal veins which are coming, joining, and then joining the inferior vena cava. So that is called as circumaortic renal veins. Then, so this is the picture of bifid ureter. I will just zoom in. Yeah, this is the picture. See, this is the bifid ureter, where two ureters will join together into one ureter and drain into the bladder through a common ureteric orifice. So if you see here, bifid ureter with common ureteral trunk. Okay, so here these two ureters are combined together and they are opening at the same trunk. Then there can be ectopic ureteric sites. I have told you, right? The ectopic ureteric sites can be, most commonly they can be present in the trigone, they can be present in the vagina or bladder neck, they can be present in urethra or vestibule. Rarely they can be present in uterus and cervix also. See, whenever they are present in vestibule or in urethra, that is below the external urethral orifice, in such case there is increased chances of dribbling of urine. So this is in females. In males, it can occur in seminal gland, trigone of bladder, bladder neck, or prostatic urethra. These are the sites where you can have ectopic ureteric opening, and less commonly it can also occur in vas deferens and ejaculatory duct. See, this is the sphincter. So all those orifices which you see, all the opening of orifices are present above the urethral internal urethral sphincter, and as a result dribbling is rarely seen in males. It is almost never seen in males. In males, urinary tract infection is the most common etiology. See, if you see, this is the bladder, so this is the ectopic ureteric orifice and it is draining. Okay, so this is the urethra. This is the picture of voiding cystoureterogram. Next abnormality we are going to learn, this is the last abnormality in this class, which is ureterocele. Okay, let us now see ureterocele. So this is the gross appearance of ureterocele. See, this is the stenotic orifice which is seen of the left sided intravesical ureterocele. So this is the left sided intravesical ureterocele. See, I have already told you, whenever you have duplicate ureters, then this upper ureter is in the obstructed type, right? Obstructed upper pole collecting system associated with ectopic ureterocele. This upper pole of ureter is associated with this ureterocele which is seen here. See, this is the stenotic orifice of ureterocele. Okay, because of this obstructive nature only, there is increased chances of atrophy of this ureter. Okay, so because of the atrophy of this pole or this ureter, there will be drooping lily signs seen in double ureters also. This is the orifice of lower pole ureter. Okay, so if you see, this is the ureteric mucosa. Okay, ureteral mucosa, and this is ureteral lumen, and this is the ureterocele. This is the stenotic orifice which is seen here. This orifice is stenotic. Okay, thus leading to the obstruction. Right, now what are you going to see? Here you have this ureterocele. See, this is the bladder lumen. Okay, this is the ureterocele lumen. Okay, and this is the stenotic part. Okay, so this is the ultrasound feature of ureterocele. And if you see, this is the IVP, that is intravenous pyelogram of ureterocele. See, all this is bladder, and this part, this is the ureterocele. Okay, because it is obstructed or stenotic or orifice is there, the contrast is not completely draining into the urinary bladder. Then if you see this one, this intravenous pyelogram, I'll just show you. Yeah, in this intravenous pyelogram, see, this is the lower ureteric system, this is the upper pole of ureter. So this is duplicated side, right side, and even here even the left side is also duplicated. Okay, but here if you see in the left side, the upper pole is not obstructed. See, you can see the ureter. This is the lower pole is also not obstructed, but here both the poles are, see, the upper pole is not obstructed. Lower pole you cannot see the ureter, but it's not obstructed. Okay, so if you see, what is this? This is the bladder lumen. Okay, what is this? This is the ureterocele which is associated with upper obstructed part. See, if you see, the because here there is upper obstructed part, there is no contrast draining. Okay, and as a result, here there is no contrast which is seen. Okay, it is shown as the radiolucent area, right? But if you see here, there is upper pole, it is not obstructed, so you can see the contrast going on. Even lower pole you can see the contrast, and at the end if you see the bladder, it is all filled with contrast except this area. So that area is nothing but the ureterocele which you are seeing. Then let us now learn some points about ureterocele. What is ureterocele? It is congenital atresia of ureteric orifices. So in ureterocele there is congenital atresia of ureteric orifices, and because the orifice is atretic, okay, this leads to cystic enlargement of intramural portion of ureter. Here the main problem is atresia of ureteric orifice, and as a result there is cystic enlargement of intramural portion of ureter. Where is this ureterocele seen? It is most commonly seen in females, and it is bilateral in 10% of patients. There is a classification for ureterocele which is called as Stephen's classification. According to Stephen's classification, we have divided the ureterocele into 3 types. One, stenotic, sphincteric, and sphincterostenotic. Okay, now we will see the clinical features. This ureterocele may be present from childhood, but sometimes it can also be unrecognized till adult life. Okay, it get large enough so that it will obstruct the vesical neck also. Sometimes it will even obstruct the vesical neck, and sometimes it can even obstruct the contralateral ureters also. This ureterocele is associated with duplicate ureters. This ureterocele is associated with duplicate ureters. It involves the ureters draining from upper renal pole. I have already shown you the picture, right? Because of this, stenosis or atresia of ureteric orifice, there will be dilatation of ureters, and there is dilatation of ureteric pelvis, and finally leading to hydroureteronephrosis. Okay, so it is associated with duplicate ureters, and it is also associated with hydroureteronephrosis. If you do an IVU, intravenous urogram, you see an appearance which is called as adder head appearance or cobra head appearance is seen in intravenous urography. And if you do a cystoscopy, you will see thin walled translucent cyst surrounding the ureteric orifice. If you do cystoscopy, you will see thin walled translucent cyst surrounding the ureteric orifice. Now how are you going to treat the condition? If it is symptomatic, okay, then you will have to do endoscopic diathermy incision. If in symptomatic, you should do endothermic diathermy incision, or you can even do cystoscopic ureteral myototomy can be done with removal of cyst. Actually, this is the one which we are mostly preferring. We can do cystoscopic ureteric myototomy with removal of cyst. If there is ectopic ureter is seen, then you should do reimplantation. Okay, so this is the main important thing which you see in ureterocele. So I will show you some images now. So if you see, these are the pictures of intravenous ureterogram. So here if you see, this is a duplex ureter, and the upper pole ureter is associated with this ureterocele. This is the ureterocele which is associated. Okay, then if you do a histology, you will see this structure, this section which is ureterocele. Okay, so this is the bladder lumen. This is the ureterocele which is a little dome shaped structure which is seen. Okay, so then we will see the last topic of today about enuresis. So what is this enuresis? Enuresis is normal, early, complete evacuation of bladder at wrong time and wrong place, at least twice a month after the age of 5 years. So enuresis is complete an evacuation of bladder at wrong time and wrong place, and at least 2 times a month after 5 years of age. After 5 years of age, if there is this evacuation of bladder at least 2 times a month, then we call it as enuresis. This enuresis can be of 2 types, primary and secondary. We call it primary when the child has never been dry. In secondary, bedwetting has been stopped for at least 6 months. For the last 6 months the child is dry at night, but now again he starts bedwetting after a minimum period of 6 months of dryness of night. So that is secondary. Here 6 months of dryness at night, then we call it as nocturnal enuresis. So if this nocturnal enuresis is monosymptomatic, that is there are no other associated symptoms, then we don't need to do any type of evaluation. If it is associated with some other symptoms, only then evaluation is needed. So what is etiology? In the etiology, if it's primary, it can be due to maturational delay or anxiety producing episodes. One, it can be due to maturational delay or anxiety producing episodes, especially in 2nd to 5th years of age, or sometimes it can be due to lack of circadian rhythm or impaired response of kidney to ADH. And if you see in secondary, it can occur due to enuresis, that is acute stressful condition or traumatic experience. Whenever there is, sometimes it can occur after a stressful condition or traumatic appearance, that is secondary. In primary, it can be maturational delay or anxiety producing episodes, secondary to 2nd to 5 years of age, or it can be due to lack of circadian rhythm. There are other causes are also associated with it, which includes polyuria, diabetes mellitus, diabetes insipidus. Sometimes there can be spina bifida, which is showing neurological bladder dysfunction, or it can be associated with ectopic ureter. Now, how are you going to evaluate it? Evaluation is, first you should ask for careful history, and if there are no daytime symptoms are seen, then there is no need to do excessive evaluation. If there are only nighttime symptoms are seen, then we can do just behavioral therapy. We will have to ask the parent or the baby to maintain a voiding diary with frequency and volume charting of urine output. And also in that voiding diary, you should also add the fluid intake also, at least for 2 days. And we will have to record the accidental daytime enuresis and also bladder symptoms if any. So first important thing is maintenance of voiding diary, which include almost all the information about the baby's voiding habits. Then if you see the treatment, this treatment should be started only and only after 4 years. The first 4 years, if there are these symptoms, there is no need to start the treatment, but after 4 years only we should start the treatment. And we should avoid caffeinated drinks, and we should give the baby adequate fluid intake. Okay, that should be the fluid that should taken should be 40% in the morning, 40% in the afternoon, and 20% in the evening. The fluid should be taken has 40% in the morning, 40% in the afternoon, and 20% in the evening. Then we should give motivational therapy. For that is, if the person is if the baby is dry for a for night, then you should give them some chocolate or something. Similarly, you should attempt to remove the feeling of guilt if he or she voided or has had enuresis. Then you can put alarm therapy, where the alarm can be attached to the diaper, and whenever the baby bedwets it, then the alarm is rung. Okay, you will have to ask the so slowly the baby will develop continence. Okay, then we can even start pharmacotherapy. Okay, in the pharmacotherapy we have important drugs like in the pharmacotherapy, the important drugs which should be used in pharmacotherapy include, we have imipramine, oxybutynin, you can use tolteridone, and you can use propivarin. So imipramine is the drug of choice actually, and this imipramine is the drug of choice, and this will alter the arousal sleep mechanism, whereas others like oxybutynin, tolteridone, and propivarin are anticholinergics, and they decrease the uninhibited bladder contraction, and these are given only after the age of 6 years of age. Only then you should give these imipramine, oxybutynin, tolteridone, or propivarin. And you can also give desmopressin because it decreases the quantity of urine. So this is about the nocturnal enuresis. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will come up with a new topic. Thank you.